Hello and welcome to aha-vts.com Clipcast on how to set up GNS3 in Windows. My name is Alim H. And oh, by the way, I'm this handsome gentleman to the right. Now, GNS3 is a powerful simulation tool that can be useful in many aspects of network design, such as creating testbeds, solutions to production problems, testing home network capabilities, and most of all, preparing and studying for your Cisco certification exams. Well, in this Clipcast, I'll show you how to install and set up GNS3 in a Windows environment. But before we do that, there are a few prerequisites that are needed. First, obtain a desktop or laptop computer, preferable with a dual-core processor and a minimum of 4 GB of RAM. Next, download GNS3 from www.gns3.net/downloads. And as you can see, there are several choices to choose from, but the all-in-one package for Windows is the most preferred. And last, obtain Cisco IOSs for the various platforms that are available within GNS3 and have them locally available on your machine. However, there are a few caveats. First, GNS3 is not a complete replacement for actual routers and switches and other networking devices, although they come mighty close. 2. Not all of the features within the iOS may be available within the emulated routers and switches. And 3, and probably most important from my perspective, there is currently no support or emulation for Cisco Layer 3 switches, which I'm hoping they'll have someday if they're able to emulate ASICs processors. Well, with all that being said, let's begin. So I'm assuming for the most part that you've downloaded GNS3 onto your machine. I've stored it locally for the purpose of this Clipcast. So let's begin the install process. So I'll double click the executable. I'll click yes, and we will wait for GNS3 to uncompress itself until we see the startup wizard. So I'll click next, agree to the license agreement, choose the name of the folder in the start menu. I'll keep the default, so I'll click next. And since this is a fresh install, you would want to select all the components with the exception of Dynamips 0.2.8 RC4. This is still in beta for IPv6 console, so I won't add this one in. I'll click next. Now choose a directory to where you want to install GNS3 to. The default option is recommended unless you have another directory in mind. Now I'll click install. And during the install process, you're prompted to install a few applications prior to GNS3 installation. And the first application is WinCap. So I'll click next. Click next again. Agree to the license agreement. And we want WinCap to start automatically at boot time. And now I'll click install. Now WinCap allows applications to capture and transmit network packets bypassing the protocol stack. And this is mainly used by the next application that's going to install, and that's Wireshark. So I'll click next, agree to the license agreement, choose all the components shown on the screen. Here you have additional tasks that you may want to check off. I keep it as a default, so I'll click next, and we choose the recommended directory. And since we already installed WinCap, I will keep this box unchecked. We'll let Wireshark finish its install process, and afterwards GNS3 will finish its install process. So we'll wait a few seconds here. Okay, click next. No, we don't want to run Wireshark at the moment, so we'll click finished. We'll just wait another few seconds here. Okay, so GNS3 has finished its install process. Now let's configure a few key components that will enable us to configure, build, and test our network designs. So the first step is to check the path to the Dynamips and the working directories are valid. And we will click on this test button to do so. And they will bring up the preference window. And we can see that Dynamips is already selected on the left. Then we will click Test Settings. We'll wait a few seconds here for Dynamips to run, and it's okay if we see non-responding. So just take a second or two. And Dynamips 0.2.8 RC3 have successfully started. But I'd also want to go to the QEMU tab that's located on the left pane. So I'll click QEMU, and then I would select Test Settings. And by the way, the QEMU is used to emulate host, PICs, ASA, and other devices as shown on the top tabs. But for right now, that's a little bit too advanced for this K.L.I.P.cast. And as you can see, QEMU also started successfully. So I'll click Apply and then OK. Step 2. Let's configure the path to the iOS image directory. And this is where you'll store all of your images. So I'll click on 2. And it brings us back to the preference window. If we go to somewhat at the middle of the screen where it says OS image, iOS QEMU, PICs, etc. directory, we'll click on the ellipse to define the directory or the folder where we have our iOS images. For me, it's located on my desktop. And here they are. So I'll click that and select folder and click apply and OK. And we're done. And the third step is to add one or more uncompressed iOS image, and the idle PC will be configured at a later time. So I'll click on 3, and as you can see, I have no iOS images available for any of the platforms. So let's begin adding iOS images. On the screen, I already have the platform 3700 and the model 3725 already selected. So I'll go to Image File, and we will select 3725 image, click Open, and we're prompted to uncompress this image, so I would select Yes. By doing so, the image would load much faster when we turn on the devices. Next, we will choose the amount of default RAM, and the default RAM is based upon the recommended amount specified by the iOS being used. So I'll bump this up to about 256, but you can bump it up to whatever you like. Then we will uncheck the default image for this platform and select Save. And that's it. This process is repeated for all other Cisco devices you want to emulate in GNS3. I will do this for the remaining platforms, and I'll be right back. Let's go here. Alright, now all of my devices has iOS's attached or defined for them. And are we done yet? Well, not quite. Now we have to do something very important, and that is we must adjust the idle PC. Again, this is a must if you want to have a stable, viable network built. You can refer to the documentation GNS3 has on what exactly the idle PC is. What I recommend is to place all of your Cisco devices in your design environment, then retrieve Task Manager, and turn on your devices. We'll wait about a minute or two for all the devices to start. And once that is done, we'll proceed to adjust the idle PC. Okay, so all of my devices are green as shown on the side panel. As you can see from Task Manager, the Dynamips process is chewing up a lot of CPU time. So we're going to adjust this for each device platform. I'm going to only demonstrate one idle PC adjustment, as all of the others will follow the same process. So I will choose my 2691 router, and it's also highlighted in Task Manager. I will right click, then select idle PC. It says I have an idle PC value already associated with this platform, but I will calculate another one. Select Yes, and it will begin calculating an idle PC hex value. So, wait for it. Okay, so we have several idle PC values to choose from. We should select the one with an asterisk next to it, as it's potentially a better idle PC. Now note, you may not be so lucky to find an idle PC with an asterisk your first time around. You may have to repeat the process several times in order to obtain the correct value. But that's what trial and error is for, right? So I will select the first one, and hopefully this will reduce our CPU utilization. Click Apply, and then OK, and then OK again. As you can see, the Dynamips process for the 2691 has dropped significantly from 25 to about 0. And this is a good thing. So I will repeat this for remaining devices, and I'll be right back. Okay, so our CPU is back to normal, our devices are running and stable, and now we can commence building networks. For a lot of us, this is where the real fun begins. Well, I hope this Clipcast on setting up GNS3 in Windows was helpful. You can visit www.gns3.net for more information on news, documentation, forums, downloads, and other useful information. You can visit www.aha-vts.com for clips, flicks, clipcasts, and much, much more. I hope you enjoyed this Clipcast, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.